I think I noticed a theme when you were discussing your profile, and that theme was you haven't really sort of sat down and penciled how you want your journey to be, which many of the actual resource people we've had on the previous sessions have also said that it's almost impossible to sit down and plan your life. But you obviously you try, you go to school, you do things, but things will sort of fall in place for you. So based off that, you haven't really sort of sat down to plan your life, but you pointed out a few things, and it was sort of in all the roles that you've always had some sort of mentor who has kind of shaped your path at that point. So what would you say is the importance of having, I don't know, like a senior colleague or a mentor who would sort of shape you in any role that you're in?
The first advantage is that they expose you to a world that you're not aware of. I mean, the world is an accumulated experience package. I mean, for as far as we know, the world have existed for thousands of years, and human knowledge has been accumulated and passed down from generation to generation. The idea is that each generation will be better than the last. And there are people. I mean, the famous saying is that I stand on the shoulder of giants, therefore I see.
Mm.
And if you exclude yourself from that experience of benefiting from giants or people who simply have gone before you put yourself at serious disadvantage. I'll give you an example. When I was putting my application packet together for Harvard, there were three essential core issues you had to address: one professional, one a legal question, and one your personal story. Uh, Academic question, legal question, personal story. And when I was writing my personal story, I had my boss then in Merlin, and I told him to help me take a read, and he read it, and he was like, "Thomas, I know you're African and you tend to want to be modest in the way you put things forward, but these people that you're applying this thing to, you have to say, because just me knowing the little I know about you, there's far more that you're not including here. There's far more. You have to be able to say and brag about yourself a bit, which is something we as Africans, I know we have braggadocious brothers and sisters around, but generally our culture, we tend to be like, more give deference to humility and not pushing ourselves forward like that. But that advice helped me because he helped me. I went and did it again and said more, and I think it helped a lot. And my other mentor in the law school in Jos, Dr. Austin, literally introduced me to a whole world that became the foundation for most of what I did. Essentially, almost left with Unijust with 2 degrees, one in computer science and one in law, because literally we were the guinea pigs for the computer science project in University of Jos. They threw every training at us because we were volunteer interns. They couldn't afford to pay regular staff. We did Microsoft certificate. This is when we didn't even know the value of those certifications. We're just being, I can literally, as I speak, I can set up a network facility from scratch, from the servers to the computers, everything, the wiring, everything. And I've done that before. And I was training as a lawyer, by the way. So, and if I didn't stumble across him, I wouldn't have been exposed to all of that. And so mentors are important. They allow you to see further than what you are capable of. I mean, what you think you are capable of. So, and I just throw this one thing before I stop speaking. I've been a planned person. Don't get me wrong when I say I didn't. The fact that my trajectory didn't follow the path that I charted for myself is a function of people and the divine hand seeing for me bigger than what I saw for myself.
Mm.
So even though I was planning for myself, my plans were very limited. And I didn't know at the time my plans were limited. And that's the inhibition you have when you just keep yourself within your world and don't get guidance and don't get people who have treaded the path to kind of guide you.
I like that. I like that last part a lot. I'll keep that in my head as well. I think finally, the last question for you is: are you going to actually become a politician later in life?
A friend of mine recently said that, look, It's not possible for you to attempt to influence the public space without being a politician. If you want to not be a
Exactly.
politician, then you should
And
stick
that's
to the
where you
private sector.
want to influence and make change. So you have to become a politician soon.
Yes, I mean, if you want to influence the public space to some extent, you have to be able to be a politician in the sense that to try to influence policymaker or become a policymaker, or yeah, you have to find avenues to influence the public intellectual thought or the policy framework. Or else some other people will frame it for you, and you'll be on the receiving end.
Yeah, very true. Just promise us that if you become the president of Liberia, don't try and stay there for 40 years.
Oh no, I think you're trying to get me into trouble because anybody that tells me that, I tell them, look, hurry and become a millionaire because it takes a lot of money to run a campaign in Africa. So when you throw that challenge at me, I throw it back at you. When the time comes, we'll come to you with our process.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, I think I'll read out the questions for Mr. Lomax. The first one is from Covenant Hero Chukuma. It says, how did you make the transition from LLB in UniJust to Harvard Law School? How do we position ourselves for such opportunities? I think you sort of touched on that already, but
I'll simply address that by saying, look, dare to apply. If you're not applying, you're not in the game at all. So, I mean, look, let me tell you, I did not get a first class from UniJust. Our professors used to tell us first class is for God. So it wasn't some sharp grades that got me into Harvard. It just daring to apply, and almost everybody that applies to Harvard is brilliant, is smart. And that's one thing our dean told us when we came there for the first time, who's an associate justice of the Supreme Court in the US now, Elena Kagan. And she made it a point to tell us that, look, you're here already. There's no point in trying to make A's and all of that. Just enjoy the experience, network, and contribute to pushing the legal frontier. I say the same thing. If you're applying, it's more than just being smart. It's a whole package. You should have a sense of what you want out of life. I always tell people, I don't know if Harvard will agree with this. I see Harvard Law School as an investment company rather than a school.
100%.
Yes, they look for good. If you go to a bank to take a loan, you have to have a good idea and you have to show that you're going to deliver on this thing. So these guys make an assessment of all these applications and they see people who have a sense of where they want to go. And they essentially join this train. So that when you get there and you become famous, guess who's going to take part of the glory? Harvard Law School. That's why they have alumni around the whole world that are outstanding. And everybody wants to go there because this is the strategy they've deployed for years. They find people who they know are going somewhere. So literally, Harvard doesn't make you, it adds to your success, but you must be going somewhere in the first place.
Very true. I can see there are two more questions. You sort of dealt with them again, but Ekere says, question, are there any special requirements to work with the World Bank? I ask this because every day lawyers like us usually get intimidated by the very thought of applying. I think you sort of said just dare to apply. I think that answers that.
If I may jump in on the first question.
Yes. Sorry.
So let's assume we have in the audience or whoever listens to this later, we have lawyers, like people who have already qualified, right? In that case, then we are basically saying, as Lomax has said, go ahead, apply, whether it's for the World Bank, for the WTO, the IMF, any of these organizations. And if you want to do a master's program, absolutely. There's no need limiting yourself and saying this is what I'm able to accomplish or not. I remember one of my family friends, a mentor, when I was actually more seriously thinking about applying for a master's program, he told me, he said, I don't know what schools you're mentioning. Of course, I always had this dream, like that I would go to Harvard one day, right? University dreams, but it's just a dream, right? So you don't really see how it happens or whether it happens. But then he said, do a ranking of the top 10 schools and keep your applications there. So I went online and then I Googled, top 10 law schools in the world. And of course, the usual suspects, Harvard, Yale, and then I just decided to apply to the top 4. To be honest, yes, I did have good grades, excellent grades, if I may put it that way, from the university. But that was not going to be enough. You're applying to a school that has applicants from all over the world, right? But I think at every point, you sometimes just need that person who gives you the extra push, as Richly Lomas was saying. He said, get the top 10 schools. And I've given that same piece of advice to lots and lots of people ever since. People who would say, no, I want to apply to the state school, but not the bigger name school in the state. I'm like, no, just go ahead. I mean, who are the other people that would apply to the big schools you are avoiding? Or they would say, oh no, I don't feel I'm able to get in there. So when I got to Harvard, my profile shows, but I did indeed make a first class in university, okay? But when I got to Harvard, and then I saw classmates who had not that same class of degree, and I thought, why did I always assume you needed a first class to get into Harvard? You don't need to, right? In fact, especially if you've had some experience and done some interesting things, then the grade, I think, doesn't matter much anymore. If you're a lawyer, you have big plans and you've done one or two things, so absolutely go ahead and apply. It's not just about who made what grades at that point. When you're fresh out of university, of course, your grades can help you, and I do believe they helped me. And I started saying this because if you're a student, absolutely try to get the best grade in your class. If you're still in school, if the opportunity is still there ahead of you, make your path a bit easier. Absolutely. Like, it's super important, especially in Nigeria, right? Where everyone is not padding in sense of making things up, but everyone is adding one qualification. So it's a very competitive environment. And if you look like too many other people, then you limit your chances, right? So as much as possible, try to stand out, whether it's by grades or the things you've done, the work you're doing, or even the size of your ambition.
Thank you for that. There's one question in the chat, and I have one more question for you. Looking at your profile, after you had your first degree, did you go straight to Harvard, or did you work? Did you have any work experience before Harvard?
Yes. So after my first degree and law school,
law school, yeah.
Yes, exactly. I did work for Aluko and Oyebode, the law firm in Lagos.
Oh, right.
And
would you advise that getting some experience? Because for me personally, I think that was a mistake I made. I straight out of first degree, I just went for a master's, and then later, learning from other people's experience, my sister and friends, I realized that you have more value if you go into a master's degree of working for 2 years, 3 years. Would you say that's true, or would you say just take the chance whenever you get it?
What I say is going to be, first of all, about my own decision and process, right? I had to work, right? Like straight from law school. I already had a job offer, fortunately for me at the time. So it was natural to just really look forward to this experience of working in what in Nigeria is like big law in Nigeria. In New York, you would say Wall Street, firms. So I think gaining experience before you choose what to do in your master's is very important. I think it's helpful. Proceeding straight from the LLB to an LLM, I think is maybe not ideal. For me, I don't think it's the ideal thing to do, because you need to get a firmer grasp, I think, of what you've studied all of these 5-6 years before you even decide what you want to do next. You probably also mature a little more, because you're going to university at 16, 17, so give yourself a little break, gain some experience, and then take the next step. I did not want to stay. This is why I say this part is about my own decision. But I did not want to work for too long, because I had the good fortune at the time of having grades that were good, right? Like, finished top of the class with the first class at the time. And I felt that if I worked for too long, then the advantage the grade conferred would disappear, right? Like if you're applying 5 years later, no one probably cares much about the grade. So while it was still hot, and before there were another like 100 people with the same kind of grade between when I graduated. So I thought it was time to take full advantage of it immediately. Get those things that are super competitive, which this grade opens doors for.
Yeah.
So I did have someone who told me, and this person was also applying to Harvard that year. He was like, why don't you wait one more year? And I said, I'm sorry. Like, it was just not, no, I mean, it might have been for his own reasons at the time, but in my case, yes, I felt it was important to do it almost immediately. For most people, that may not necessarily be the case. And I don't think maybe I was wrong at the time, but this was what I thought.
Yeah. Thank you. Pamela says, thank you, Gomi, for your advice for those people who don't have a first class degree. And then this question is for you yourself and Mr. Lomax, because you're both Harvard alumni. It says, did you guys get any scholarship for Harvard?
So that's a good question, and it's a good way to speak on this. That's some of the things that scare people when they apply. So
big money.
Don't be scared about that. Apply, and Harvard has evolved since we went. Actually, it's actually gotten better with this, in the sense that if you're good and you're taken, they will assist you as much as possible. Once you're accepted, financial limitations will not be the basis for you not to come. So I'm a living example of that. I had only $10,000 that I had saved up for Iowa, and the school fees at the time was about $70,000, and I obviously did not have that. So I mean, I when I got the call about the admission, when I got the email, immediately after the email, the lady called me, and this was me still like in the mesmerized state, not knowing if this is true or it's 419. And I was literally walking and pacing the bush tracks of where I was assigned then in rural Liberia working for the UN. And I got the call, and I was like, "Is this Mr. Lomax?" I said, "Yes." This admission officer, did you get our email? I was like, "Yes." She's like, "People respond immediately." I was like, "Oh, I'm not haven't responded yet because I'm still confused. I don't know if this is true or not." And then she said, "The reason why I'm calling is because you indicated that you had financial need and you didn't have enough funds, and there are some scholarships applications that are coming up that the deadline closes this week, and you might want to take advantage and apply." So I applied for one human rights scholarship and a competitive Harvard-wise scholarship. And I was fortunate to get both of them. I got the human rights scholarship, and myself and another person got the Harvard-wide scholarship that year. So it was only two persons. And it's not just an application you write. There's some questions you answer to. I think there's the academic, and then there's a personal story part too. And so, yeah, so at the end of the day, I got enough money to cover all of my school fees, and they gave me an extra $5,000 as a loan from, I think, Citibank at the time. So essentially, I didn't have to even touch. Then I got a job. I got a job working on campus as a tech research assistant in the library, which is part of that Carnegie training I was telling you about. That was what made me qualify for that job. And so I was earning $800 a month. I didn't touch my $10,000. It was breathing in the bank, as we say in this part of the world. And I've had a free ride to school. And yeah. Perfect. So don't let that hinder you at all. Once you get in, I will find a way for you to come.
Okay, that's good. Thanks for that. Gomi, is that the same for you as well? Is there a similar trajectory?
For me, similar, but not exactly. I wasn't as I was privileged in a different way. But Lomax is absolutely right. Do not be dissuaded from applying just because you don't have the money, right? I know lots and lots of people who have gone to Harvard, NYU, any of these big schools who had zero. At the time I applied, as I said, I hadn't even really worked much. and I did not have any money to my name. So in the application, you're told, give your financial situation, like what's the value of your house and all of these things, and that information will not be used for your admission. I did not really believe it. I thought, oh my God, if I tell these guys I'm so poor, just won't give me the admission. So there is a portion where they say, if you don't get financing from Harvard, would you be able to raise money from other sources? And I said yes. I tell you, I did not have $500 in any account, but I believed at the time, of course, that if I got the admission, I might be able to chase politicians and governments and state governments, and I might be able to successfully raise money. So let me just get the admission first. So when it came time, I got much less funding, much less scholarship than any of my classmates, as I remember now. One of my classmates back then, I think she only needed, was it like 3,000 or 4,000? The total cost for my year was $68,000, maybe $200. Estimated cost for you to get a visa. And she didn't have to raise really any money. Much of it, more than 40,000 in grants, so free money, and then a little portion in loans. I got scholarship, but not enough to actually make me go to Harvard that year. Obviously, because I said I would be able to raise money. So, it's needs-based, right? So they focused on those who said they did not have other ways of raising money. And maybe I was definitely poorer than any of these other people. So then I had to pursue what I initially hoped I would do if I got admitted. And I got full funding from my state to cover the program that year. And to tell you how, of course, as I said, it was the mistaken belief on my part that your funding status might affect your admission, which is not the case. You get admitted first, and then they look at your financial standing, right? So don't even let that part make you not apply or worry about whether you get the admission. So the portion of the money I got from the school, of course, they had to take it back because I no longer needed it. But then I eventually still needed money, right? And I went back and I said, guys, you gave me some money, you took that part back, but I'm going to be broke soon. And I got additional injection of cash from Harvard. So it's not a school that's really trying to raise money from you to survive, right? Like they have money, and Lomax can tell you, I'm sure we'll get hounded every year to continue to contribute so that others who come will also have money to get the program going.
Good. Thank you very, very much for that. It shows that I have a chance. Maybe I'll try to apply for Harvard this year.
You sure do.
Good luck.
There's a question from Anne. She's saying, thank you so much. Please, knowing the state of the nation as regards employment, what advice would you give to people who didn't study law? And she's put in bracket lucrative courses. And what should they be doing to gain the experience needed to get their dream job and going for a master's? So I guess she's asking if someone didn't study law, what advice would you be given for that person to get any experience?
I can just chime in very quickly and turn it to the rest of you. It used to be, right? When I grew up, growing up in Nigeria, it was always said you studied law or medicine or engineering and maybe one more thing, architecture and accountancy, somewhere there,
Yeah.
But I don't think that's necessarily, what did you say?
You forgot political science.
Well, political science, you don't even need a degree. You just need to,
as you said,
if you can handle the ballot box, you're fine, right? Like that part. So, but I don't think that that still represents the reality, apart from medicine, which, has high rates of employment, I think. I mean, studying law doesn't really guarantee either the prestige or the money as it used to. There are lots of lawyers who are not doing very well financially these days. So I think maybe it's good to take off that, basically disabuse oneself of that idea. And to know that regardless of what you study, law being included, you can be at the at the apex of your profession, or somewhere in the middle, or closer to the bottom, depending on partly chance and also how much you work. There are other things that are now money generating, especially tech, right? Which sometimes doesn't even need. I mean, tech, for example, may not even need you to spend too much money in terms of training. People learn coding, whether at home. But I've also come to realize much later that economics is another really good course.
Yeah.
It wasn't much talked about, and I didn't know anyone who actually signed up, when writing JAM to study economics. But internationally, there are very, very, very many opportunities out there. Name all of these institutions: World Bank, IMF, I keep saying WTO, the UN, virtually everywhere. If you have an economics degree, you really have a table. You have a seat at the table. I even find that if you have an economics degree, it's a smoother transition, because unlike law, that's jurisdiction specific, and you have to get like certifications, and that's definitely. I'm just mentioning this. It's a random course, but it's no longer random. It's mainstream across the world. Tech is another option. So if you can study law, of course, absolutely. For me, law is my economics, in terms of, I feel like with a law degree, you can do virtually anything. You can work in Lomax's division, you can work practicing traditional law, or you can even be a journalist if you want, or even claim to be a political scientist if you read all the books in the world, So yes, law, economics, but think more broadly beyond just the traditional ones mentioned in Nigeria when you're growing up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. I think it's been a very, very good session. It looks like we're out of time. We spent more than the allotted 45 minutes, but it's because the engagement has been really good. So thank you, Gomi. Thank you, Lomax, for your insights. And yeah, over to you, Mr. Yabina, for a final thank you speech.
Thank you so much, Lomax, Richelu. Yeah, Lomax is in my house. I'm honored. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gomi, for coming on today. I want to believe this was an interesting session, and it was interesting to me. I learned a lot. I'm not a lawyer, but thank you so much for everything you've shared. I'll be able to share that with my friends out there. And thank you everyone for attending. The next Insights with Mentor You Decide will be for those who want to come work as medical practitioners in the foreign space. And so I'll be bringing up doctors who are working outside the country already, and most of them are Nigerians too. So if you have friends that are interested in that, you could invite them for our next session. And you could also learn too, because I learned a lot today. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tobilola Patilewa, for being a wonderful moderator. Oh, it's so nice having you here. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time. First Saturday of every month, that's when we meet. Any more questions, you can private chat HEDDAs, and we can send responses to you from Lomax and Gomi if they're interested in answering. I believe they will be helpful anyways. Abi, isn't it?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, and see
All right,
you
thank you.
next month by God's grace.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.